Welcome. Today we're exploring a really remarkable shift that's happening right now in the humanitarian world.
We are indeed.
It's all about how artificial intelligence is, well, rapidly changing the game for individuals working in aid.
But, and this is the twist.
Right. Perhaps surprisingly, the big organizations, they're still kind of finding their footing with it all.
Exactly. It's this really compelling tension, isn't it? And one that's pretty critical to understand if we want to see where things are headed.
Absolutely. So we're going to pull back the curtain on this evolving landscape. And we're drawing heavily from a pretty groundbreaking study.
That's right. It's the first comprehensive baseline study of its kind, actually. It comes from the Humanitarian Leadership Academy and Data-Friendly Space.
Okay.
And it's titled, How Are Humanitarians Using Artificial Intelligence in 2025? Mapping Current Practice and Future Potential. Full Insights Report. Came out just this past August.
So that's really fresh data then, and that's the core of our discussion today, but we're also weaving in insights from someone else too.
Yes, we're bringing strategic reflections from Ali Al Mokdad. He's a well-known voice in the global impact space, and his thinking offers a really crucial lens on these developments.
Ah, okay, so he helps connect the dots maybe between the ground level stuff and the bigger strategic picture.
Precisely. So our mission today really is to cut through some of the noise around AI in this field. We want to uncover the most important nuggets of knowledge, maybe reveal some surprising facts along the way.
And explore the underlying dynamics of how AI is genuinely shaping humanitarian response right now.
Exactly. You can think of this as your shortcut, baby, to understanding a landscape that's, well, it's far more complex and definitely more human than you might initially think.
And just to be clear, as an AI native sort of conversation here, we're not generating this data ourselves, are we?
No, absolutely not. Our role is to analyze, reflect upon, and maybe extend the insights from published work like this HLA report and articles and Ali Al Mokdad's perspectives. We're interpreting, connecting the dots.
Got it. So let's unpack this. You mentioned the current state of AI in humanitarianism presents a paradox.
Yeah, that's the word the report uses. It's like a puzzle with a lot of pieces. And the first piece, I think, might genuinely surprise you.
Okay, a paradox. Sounds intriguing. Let's dive into that. Where do we start? Maybe with the global picture of AI adoption, because those numbers sound pretty significant.
They really are eye-opening. So, according to that Humanitarian Leadership Academy and Data-Friendly Space report, a staggering 93% of the people they surveyed reported using or having used AI tools.
93%. Wow. And who were they surveying?
This was across 144 countries and territories.
Yeah.
So we're talking about real people, on the ground, working in really diverse, often incredibly challenging environments.
And they're making AI part of their daily professional lives.
That's the key. It's not just casual experimentation either.
Mhm.
The report indicates that 70% of these humanitarians are integrating AI into their daily or weekly workflows.
70% daily or weekly. So this isn't just theory.
Not at all. It's a precisely. That ingenuity at the individual level is impressive. But here's where that paradox really starts to bite.
Okay.
It's the striking lag in organizational readiness, despite this huge wave of individual adoption.
Let me guess, the organizations aren't keeping pace.
Not even close. The HLA-DFS report found that only a tiny fraction, just 8% of organizations report AI as being widely integrated across their structure.
Only 8%. That's a huge difference from the 93% individual use.
It really is. It's like you have individual humanitarian workers running marathons with these new AI-powered running shoes, but the organizations they work for are still back at the starting line, debating whether to even buy the first pair.
That's a stark image. Does the data break down what the organizations are doing, if not fully integrating?
Yes, it does. According to the report, about 25% are still in the early experimentation or pilot phases. So they're actively exploring, dipping their toes in, but not fully committed yet.
Okay, exploring. What about the rest?
Well, another 26% haven't started AI adoption at all, but they say they plan to. And then there's about 11% who explicitly state they have no intention to adopt AI.
Wow. So a real mix, but mostly lagging far behind the individual users. This gap, it feels like more than just a technical problem.
Oh, definitely. It points to a much deeper systemic challenge within the sector.
And if that wasn't complex enough, you mentioned there are also mixed feelings about AI's effectiveness, even among the people using it.
Yeah, that's another layer to this paradox. Despite that really high individual usage, less than half of the respondents, only 47%, agreed that AI actually improved their operational efficiency.
Less than half. Even though 70% use it daily or weekly, that's surprising.
It gets even more so. Only 38% believed it led to better decision-making.
Okay, so efficiency is under 50%, decision-making under 40%. What did the others think?
Almost 30% remained neutral or uncertain about AI's benefits, even though, again, they're using it frequently.
So what does that suggest? Maybe the adoption isn't always driven by, like, a deep conviction that AI is revolutionary.
That seems likely. It might be driven more by sheer accessibility. These tools are easy to get, and necessity, especially in resource-constrained environments.
Right. Less of a, wow, this has proven to be amazing, and more of a, well, this is available, it's easy to try, and maybe it can help me manage this overwhelming workload.
Exactly. Humanitarians innovating out of necessity, trying to make things work.
Which brings us back to that term you mentioned the HLAFS report uses.
Yes, they explicitly define it as the humanitarian AI paradox.
And how do they define that paradox?
It's, quote, the disconnect between widespread individual AI adoption and organizational readiness, compounded by mixed individual attitudes about AI's effectiveness. It captures all those tensions we've just discussed.
Okay, that makes sense. And this is where Ali Al Mokdad's perspective comes in again, right? How does he frame this?
His framing really resonates here. In his reflections, particularly from AI and humanitarian aid, reshaping assistance from the ground up, he talks about this paradox. He describes it as bottom-up ingenuity flourishing in the absence of top-down infrastructure.
Bottom-up ingenuity, flourishing in absence of top-down infrastructure. I like that.
It captures it well, doesn't it? And he emphasizes very strongly that humanitarians are already leading. They're not waiting for permission because lives don't wait.
Wow. That really hits home. It's not just a technical issue, it's about human resilience, the urgency of the work.
Absolutely. It's that classic tension, isn't it? The agility and, well, the sheer ingenuity of individuals on the ground dealing with immediate, often life-saving needs.
Clashing with the slower, more cautious, maybe more policy-driven pace of the larger institutions.
Right. Individuals grab tools to get the job done now. But organizations, they're burdened by compliance worries, data security fears, the sheer difficulty of systemic change. They struggle to keep up.
And that creates this critical fault line, this gap in how AI is actually being integrated.
It does. And Ali Al Mokdad offers even more context here by talking about AI arriving in waves. He also uses some powerful historical parallels.
Waves of AI. Tell me more about that. Where does he detail this?
He outlines this in articles like AI in Humanitarian Aid, Reshaping Assistance from the Ground Up, and also AI in Humanitarian Aid, Waves of Transformation. He sees 4 distinct waves.
Okay, 4 waves. What was the first one?
Wave 1, he says, was all about automation and assistance. Think basic stuff, like AI chatbots handling routine questions about aid distribution, maybe freeing up staff time.
Or simple co-pilots, maybe, helping with tedious data entry, offloading those tasks.
Exactly. It was about efficiency gains, saving time, letting frontline workers focus on the more complex, human-centered support.
Makes sense. What was wave 2?
Wave 2 was the generative surge. This is where AI started creating things, not just doing tasks.
Like drafting reports or translating material.
Precisely. Generating initial reports after needs assessment, maybe creating localized training materials in multiple languages, summarizing huge amounts of field data. It was a big leap.
I can see how that would be huge for humanitarians, saving enormous amounts of time and resources.
Definitely. Suddenly, they had tools that could produce content they previously had to build from scratch, often under immense pressure.
So where are we now, according to him?
We're currently in wave 3, which Ali calls the reasoning revolution.
Reasoning revolution. Okay, what does that mean?
This is where AI systems start to, well, think more strategically. They're not just generating content. They can break down complex problems, simulate different scenarios.
And actually support high-stakes decision-making.
Right. It's like having a strategic advisor. Imagine AI helping predict the most effective aid routes based on shifting conflict dynamics, or optimizing really complex supply chains in real time.
So it's moving beyond just producing text or data into more structured analytical thinking.
Exactly. A shift from generation to reasoning.
And wave 4, what's next?
Wave 4 is on the horizon, or in sight, as he puts it. This is embodied AI.
Embodied AI like robots.
Essentially, yes. Robotics paired with advanced reasoning. Think about drones that can rapidly assess damage in dangerous or inaccessible zones, and maybe even deliver essential supplies.
Or robots assisting in search and rescue.
Potentially, yes. These are multimodal systems integrating text, voice, images, and physical action. It's where AI steps off the screen and interacts directly with the physical world of aid delivery, a future being built today, really.
That's quite a vision. Does Ali offer any analogies to help grasp this progression?
He does a really powerful one from history in that waves of transformation piece. He says, think about electricity.
Okay.
Edison and Westinghouse brought electricity into homes, but industries transformed economies by putting it to work.
So the invention wasn't the transformation itself.
Exactly. He continues, refrigeration didn't transform economies. Coca-Cola did. Smartphones didn't redefine society. Instagram, Uber, and TikTok did.
I see. It's the application of the technology that drives the real change.
Precisely his point. He argues that tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, they're the electricity, the foundational platforms. But the real revolution belongs to those who apply this AI to solve humanity's toughest problems.
Like predicting famines, optimizing supply chains and conflict zones.
Personalizing aid for displaced families, yes. It's about harnessing the application, not just celebrating the technology itself.
And this connects to a core message in his work, right? Something about transformation versus technology.
Yes, particularly in transformation, not technology. The human element of change, he stresses, technology is not the problem. Transformation is.
Meaning the tech is just a tool? The real work is changing how we operate, how we think.
Exactly. Successful change depends on adapting our ways of working, our processes, fostering that human element and leadership. It's about how we integrate these tools ethically and effectively, driven by human ingenuity.
Okay, so we've laid out this core paradox, this gap between individual speed and institutional caution. This must lead to some significant challenges, right? What are the biggest hurdles the sector is facing?
Well, one of the most immediate is that implementation gap itself. How do the organizations actually catch up?
Right, because as we said, individuals are already embedding these tools everywhere. Communication, data analysis, report writing, needs assessments.
It's happening organically, driven by need, often without any official organizational nod.
You mentioned an example earlier of someone dictating emails.
Yes, that quote from the HLADFS report. I use AI personally. Dictate into my mic and then have AI polish it into a better organized email or document, which saves me a lot of time. That's pure grassroots innovation addressing workload pressure.
But this bottom-up approach must create headaches for leadership, surely. And you mentioned AI skeptics.
It definitely does, and the data reveals a serious disconnect. Remember, the HLADFS survey found 41% of respondents believe senior leadership holds the AI decision-making authority. Yet among 317 senior leaders surveyed, only 21% reported having formal organizational AI policies in place.
41% think leaders are in charge, but only 21% of leaders actually have policies. That's not just a gap, that's a chasm.
It really is. And think about the skeptics, the 21% of humanitarians who rarely or never use AI. The report notes 40% of these are from NGOs.
Okay, so concentrated in the bigger international organizations. Why is that?
The report suggests it reflects institutional caution rather than technological inability. There's a real fear articulated by respondents about the risks.
Like data privacy.
Exactly. One survey respondent put it bluntly, humanitarian organizations often collect sensitive data. Using AI on such data can risk breaches or misuse if not properly secured. That fear of liability is a huge factor for leadership.
So leaders are caught in a bind, trying to balance the innovation their staff are pushing for with the critical need for compliance, data security, safeguarding.
Precisely. Some respondents even voiced concerns about adoption before real readiness or adoption without leadership engagement. It highlights this lack of a coherent institutional strategy, maybe even a fear of the unknown.
And are these implementation challenges the same everywhere, or do they vary?
They definitely vary, significantly actually, across different types of organizations and regions. Local organizations, for example, voiced heightened concerns about ethics and security.
Why them specifically?
Well, think about it. They're closest to the communities they serve. They're directly accountable. Any misstep with data or biased AI has immediate tangible consequences for vulnerable people they know.
Right, so their proximity makes the risks feel much more immediate.
Absolutely. And this creates what the report calls a dual challenge for them.
Okay.
They often operate with limited budgets and weaker technical infrastructure, yet they're the ones who could arguably benefit most from AI efficiency gains, working directly in those resource-scarce environments.
So the ones who need it most are often least equipped to access or manage it safely. That's a tough irony.
It is. But there's a fascinating counter-narrative here, too, emerging from the research.
Oh.
Remember, 75% of the survey respondents were from the Global South, Sub-Saharan Africa, M&A, Asia-Pacific.
Right.
And despite resource constraints, or maybe even because of them, These regions are showing intense interest and drive for AI innovation.
So scarcity is driving creativity.
It seems so. One respondent from a low-resource setting was quoted in the report saying things like, "Sometimes weak internet or power problems make it harder, but we try to find solutions, like using offline tools or lighter apps." They added, "These challenges push us to be more creative."
That's remarkable ingenuity, finding workarounds.
It really is. Another respondent, this one from the DRC, shared how they're using AI chatbots on a platform called Apprendia for teacher training, and it's already highly appreciated by the educational authorities.
So innovation is flourishing even where infrastructure is limited. The need itself fuels the drive.
Exactly. But a major overarching hurdle for scaling AI across the whole sector remains investment, or the lack of it.
The money, how bad is it?
Pretty stark. According to the HLA DFS report, 43% of respondents reported very low budget allocation for AI research, infrastructure, and training within their organizations.
Nearly half reporting very low investment. And does that go all the way to the top?
It does. Among the senior leaders surveyed, 73%, almost three-quarters, reported very low budget investment in AI initiatives.
73%. Even if they have positive attitudes towards AI's potential.
Apparently so. It creates this vicious cycle, doesn't it? A real chicken and egg situation.
Oh, so.
Organizations feel they can't justify big AI investments because they lack internal expertise.
But they can't develop that expertise or build the infrastructure without the initial investment.
Exactly. It's a systemic barrier holding progress back.
And are there external factors too, like donors?
Yes. Donor compliance and strict project requirements were cited as significant barriers. One respondent specifically noted, according to the report, a barrier to using AI at work is donor compliance and strict requirements on the projects.
So external rules can clash with internal efforts to innovate, adding another layer of complexity. Makes long-term AI investment really tricky.
It's incredibly difficult, yes.
You know, thinking about this widespread individual use, it makes you wonder about the skills involved. Are all these humanitarians suddenly becoming AI experts?
That's a great question, and the data reveals something more nuanced. The HLA DFS report actually calls it the AI skills paradox.
Skills paradox, okay.
So, while humanitarians generally report strong general digital skills, when you ask specifically about AI, only a tiny fraction, 3.6%, consider themselves experts.
Only 3.6% experts. So what level are most people at?
Most are operating at intermediate levels. They know how to use the tools, but they wouldn't call themselves specialists.
And this ties back to that point about mixed feelings on effectiveness, doesn't it?
Correctly. Remember, only 47% saw efficiency gains, 38% better decisions. Nearly 30% were uncertain. This suggests people are learning as they go, often through trial and error, figuring out how to make these tools genuinely useful in their context.
The report had some quotes illustrating this.
Yes, one respondent shared their learning curve beautifully. They said, "I remember the first time I relied on AI to create a multi-sectoral survey. The results were frustratingly inconsistent."
A common experience, probably.
Right. But they continued. "Over time, however, I learned how to guide AI effectively. All of such understanding transformed AI from a frustrating tool into a powerful asset."
So they learned prompt engineering, essentially, how to guide it.
Exactly. But then another respondent offered a contrasting view. "Whenever me or my colleagues try and use AI, it always falls flat."
So very different experiences. It suggests people are trying it because it's there and then figuring out how to make it work rather than adopting it because it's already proven its value perfectly.
It showcases incredible adaptability, doesn't it? And what's also interesting is that this adoption isn't just the younger staff. The report found consistent use across all experience levels.
Even experienced humanitarians are embracing these tools.
Yes, the highest rates were among those with 1 to 5 years experience, but still very significant rates among those with over 5 years. It's broad-based.
And how does Ali Al Mokdad's thinking connect here on the skills and organizational psychology front?
His insights from AI in organizational psychology are relevant. He notes AI can boost productivity, lower costs, enhance equity.
But there's always a but.
But it also risks embedding systemic inequities if left unchecked. That's a crucial ethical flag for the sector.
So it's not just about skills, it's about values.
Exactly. He pushes us to ask, the real question is not what AI can do in the workplace, but what kind of workplaces we want AI to help us build. Shifting the focus from the tech's capabilities to our purpose in using it.
That focus on purpose seems critical. And it leads nicely into another disconnect, doesn't it? The training aspect.
Yes, the humanitarian AI training disconnect. Basically, individuals are learning, but often without institutional support.
How big is the gap?
It's significant. The HLA-DFS report highlights that a staggering 64% of respondents reported getting little to no organization-directed AI training,
Wow, nearly two-thirds are learning on their own.
which creates what the report calls the AI learning iceberg.
The iceberg, meaning most of the learning is hidden.
Exactly. The informal learning is often invisible to the organizations. Humanitarians are highly motivated, learning independently. The dominant methods. Self-directed learning, 52% reported doing this.
Okay, self-teaching. What else?
Online courses at 45.8%. Much less comes through formal channels like organizational-led training, only 31.5%, or peer-to-peer learning at 21.3%.
So this invisible learning means organizations might be missing out on a ton of internal expertise.
Potentially, yes. Staff are upskilling, often using their own time and money. But if it's not recognized or supported, that knowledge isn't shared systematically.
And it also means organizations might not even know all the tools being used, which has implications for risk, right? Data privacy, security,
Absolutely.
unmanaged risks.
Does training access differ much between, say, big NGOs and local NGOs?
Interestingly, not as much as you might expect, the report found similar rates. About 33% of INGO respondents reported no training access, and it was only slightly higher, 38% for local NGOs.
So lack of formal training access seems to affect both similarly. It's not just a local NGO issue. Correct. It seems more about overall sector provision than willingness. But there's a fascinating social dynamic the report uncovered regarding experimentation.
Oh, what's that?
It seems there's less stigma around AI experimentation in local organizations. Many respondents from local NGOs openly shared their AI trials and successes.
Okay, more open about trying things out. How does that compare?
In stark contrast, the report notes, the majority of interview participants from NGOs and UN agencies insisted on anonymity. They'd say things like, I'm not authorized to discuss AI on behalf of my organization.
That's a huge difference. Suggests a much more risk-averse, maybe bureaucratic culture in the larger
It
institutions.
certainly hints at that. Deeply ingrained caution.
But despite this institutional reluctance, the individual motivation to learn seems really high.
Incredibly strong. The report highlights that over 80% of survey respondents from all types of organizations opted into further research opportunities.
80% wanted to learn more.
Yes, demonstrating a really strong appetite for discussion spaces. It clearly shows humanitarians are driven to continuously improve their skills for better effectiveness. They're hungry for knowledge.
But is the training that is available actually meeting their needs?
Often not. The report suggests it tends to be generic, not tailored to the unique realities, the ethical complexities of humanitarian work.
So more about basic tool use than deep application.
Often, yes. Confidence building might be prioritized over technical mastery, which could be an issue given the sensitivity of the work. But the demand is undeniable.
How high is the demand for training?
Get this. 73% of respondents identified training opportunities as the most crucial organizational AI support mechanism they need for the next 12-24 months.
73% prioritizing training. That's a massive signal to the sector.
Absolutely clear.
This training gap, combined with the lack of clear organizational policies we discussed, that must lead to governance issues.
Precisely. The report calls it the AI governance lag. You have widespread individual use happening without corresponding organizational oversight.
And this is where the idea of shadow AI comes in.
Exactly. Shadow AI just refers to the unsanctioned use of AI tools by employees. And the HLA-DFS report reveals 70% of humanitarians regularly use AI tools for work, often without explicit organizational backing.
70% using tools, often off the books, including people in organizations that haven't even started planning for AI.
Yes, that includes the 7% working for orgs with no plans to adopt, and the 17% in orgs that are planning but haven't started. It's not a niche problem. It indicates a massive scale of unmanaged activity and potentially unmanaged risk.
Is this unique to the humanitarian sector?
No. The report actually cites broader industry trends showing this is common elsewhere, too. Something like 38% of employees admit sharing sensitive work info with AI tools without permission, and about half use unauthorized AI tools.
So humanitarians are part of a larger trend, but you could argue the stakes are much higher given the vulnerable populations and sensitive data involved.
Absolutely. The stakes are incredibly high. And this absence of formal policies creates a governance vacuum. Ethical concerns bubble up, but there are no structured ways to address them.
Who is raising these concerns most strongly?
They cut across all organization types, but the report notes they're particularly strong from local NGOs. Again, likely due to their direct proximity and accountability to affected communities. They see the immediate, real-world impact.
What are some of the key ethical concerns people mention in the report?
Several big ones. Data sovereignty and privacy is huge. One respondent pointed out there is not enough data on sub-Saharan Africa on online platforms, highlighting how models trained elsewhere might just not work well. It could even be biased.
That makes sense. What else?
Environmental impact was raised. The environmental and social impact on areas where data centers are based and the draining of resources. That's a growing concern globally.
And community involvement.
Crucial. Respondents emphasize the need for community participation, stating, to ethically integrate AI, it will be essential to involve local communities in the design and deployment, echoing that nothing about us without us principle.
That seems fundamental for ethical practice. Other risks.
Bias and discrimination, definitely. The risk that AI systems trained on historical data might perpetuate biases leading to unfair resource allocation or the exclusion of marginalized groups.
Also the risk of relying too much on the tech.
Yes, over-reliance on AI that can replace nuanced human decision-making in areas requiring empathy and context. And the related issue of opaque systems, black boxes, where it's difficult to trace decisions or challenge errors, which can erode trust.
These are deep challenges for a sector built on trust and human connection.
Absolutely. And remember that example from the INEO in Lebanon?
The person who built their own safer AI agent?
Yes. Quoted in the report saying, I use my own funds to build the AI agent to make our AI usage safer. It just perfectly illustrates that individual resourcefulness, but also the desperate need for institutional support and policy. They felt personally responsible.
It's admirable, but also worrying. But despite all these ethical concerns being raised, where do ethical guidelines actually rank in terms of what people want from their organizations?
This is a critical insight from the report. Ethical guidelines ranked fourth, at 43% of respondents saying they need them.
Fourth, what came ahead of ethics?
Training was number one at 73%, then access to tools at 53%, and funding at 48%.
So ethics is important, but less urgent than getting trained, getting access, and getting funding.
That's how the report interprets it. Humanitarians view ethical considerations as important but secondary to immediate operational needs. It reflects the reality of chronic resource constraints and the constant pressure to deliver results quickly in crises.
A pragmatic but maybe risky prioritization driven by necessity.
Potentially, yes.
And Ali Al Mokdad weighs in strongly on this governance gap, doesn't he?
He does. In AI and the future of humanitarian leadership, he warns, AI governance is running at two speeds. Innovation races ahead while institutions crawl behind. And the risk. We risk hard-coding inequity where the global north innovates, and the global south inherits the risks without the benefits.
A stark warning about entrenching inequality.
And in his piece on the moral panic of artificial intelligence, he cautions against knee-jerk regulation too. The danger is not just over-regulation, it's regulation shaped by fear and lobbying, not evidence and fairness. He calls for thoughtful, fair governance.
Okay, one last major challenge area from the report. The tools themselves, you mentioned commercial tools dominate?
Yes, the report calls it commercial tool dominance in a fragmented ecosystem. In big majority, 69% of humanitarians use those general-purpose commercial AI agents, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Copilot, and so on.
Because they're easy to get and often free to start with, right?
Exactly. Accessibility is key. And they're using them for common tasks like content generation reports, proposals, training materials, and professional communication, like translation or drafting emails.
And they're using lots of different ones.
Yes. The report describes a fragmented approach. ChatGPT for reports, Google Translate for communication, specialized GIS tools for mapping, Excel for analytics. People are experimenting across platforms, showing flexibility, but also highlighting the lack of a single integrated toolkit.
But relying so heavily on these general-purpose commercial tools must raise some red flags, especially around context and security.
Huge red flags. The report questions their contextual appropriateness and data security. These tools simply weren't designed for the unique needs and risks of humanitarian work. The highly sensitive data, the complex ethical landscape, the need for data sovereignty in many places.
Does the report give an example of this fragmentation in action?
Yes, a really compelling one. It describes a field team managing water sources in remote rural areas. They ended up combining multiple commercial AI tools.
Let me guess. Google Earth.
Google Earth, yes. Plus something called the Buvon app. Other AI-integrated GIS tools, machine learning for predictive maintenance on pumps, voice-to-text for field notes, AI translation tools, and generative AI for reporting.
Wow. That's a lot of different tools coupled together.
Exactly. It showcases incredible ingenuity, figuring out how to make it work. But it also perfectly illustrates the fragmentation of the current ecosystem and the inherent risks of patching together solutions like this without any central oversight or validation.
Right. It's impressive, but also slightly terrifying from a data management perspective.
You could say that.
Okay, that's a thorough look at the paradox and the big challenges. Implementation, skills, training, governance, tool fragmentation. But you said it's not all problems. The report also highlights solutions being built.
Yes, absolutely. It showcases some inspiring real-world applications of purpose-built AI solutions. These are crucial because they move beyond just relying on generic commercial tools.
So these are tailored specifically for humanitarian contexts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Addressing specific challenges while trying to uphold humanitarian principles. They really show how human ingenuity, when properly directed and supported, can leverage AI for profound good.
Great. Let's hear about some of these. What's the first case study?
The first one, detailed in the report, involves an international development and humanitarian organization working on child welfare in Africa.
Okay, child welfare. Sensitive area. What do they do?
They developed an AI chatbot specifically to train caregivers and child and youth care professionals. This wasn't just a general infobot, it was strategic capacity building at scale.
And was it tailored?
Very much so. They created two versions, one for adults, covering things like safeguarding, mental health support, stress management, and another specifically for youth, focusing on participation, empowerment, employability skills, career guidance.
Smart. How was it built? And importantly, how did they handle privacy?
Built using Microsoft Power virtual agents, now called Copilot, through a tech partnership. And crucially, the report states it operated anonymously, with no user tracking. Yeah, essential for building trust, especially around child welfare topics.
What challenges did they have to overcome?
Significant ones. Infrastructure limitations, patchy internet, power issues, digital literacy gaps among the users, complex cultural localization to make the content relevant, language barriers, and just building user trust initially.
And the impact? Was it successful?
Remarkably so, according to the report. They saw a 600% increase in uptake once those initial trust barriers were overcome. It really showcased how effective context-appropriate AI can be deployed in the Global South, respecting local needs and sensitivities.
A 600% increase. That's impressive.
Okay.
What's the second example?
This one comes from a local humanitarian organization in Afghanistan. They use AI to support a community livelihood program focused on women's economic inclusion.
Okay, Afghanistan, women's economic inclusion. How did AI help?
They developed an AI-based data analysis platform. Its purpose was to process feedback from women participating in the program feedback that was often unstructured, maybe verbal or handwritten.
And use that feedback to improve the program.
Exactly, to improve program design continuously and critically to reduce dropout rates, making the interventions more effective for the women involved.
How did the AI actually process that feedback?
The report says they used natural language processing, NLP, to analyze voice recordings and handwritten notes from training sessions. This captured really rich, qualitative feedback.
And they combined that with other data?
Yes, with predictive modeling. They correlated demographic data with participation trends to proactively identify women who might be at risk of dropping out so they could offer targeted support.
What kind of challenges were they addressing there?
Huge ones. Processing unstructured feedback in local languages, Pashto and Dari, identifying very specific cultural barriers women face, things like mobility restrictions, lack of family support, customizing the vocational skills training being offered, and doing all this with limited infrastructure and within cultural restrictions.
And the impact of using AI this way?
Really clear and positive, according to the report. It allowed for rapid identification of key themes from the feedback. This led to data-driven program adjustments like optimizing training times, arranging childcare, or transportation support.
And did it reduce dropout rates?
Yes. The report states they saw a significant 30% increase in completion rates, a direct impact on women's economic empowerment.
That's fantastic. A very concrete result. Okay, third case study.
Third one looks at AI-powered safety education for children affected by the conflict in Ukraine. This was led by a local humanitarian organization supporting refugees.
Safety education using AI games. How did that work?
Their goal was to develop interactive educational games to teach kids crucial safety skills, things like appropriate wartime behaviors, how to identify and avoid explosive remnants of war, mines, unexploded ordnance.
A critical need. How did they build it?
Using Python and AI-powered content generation, they created visual novel-style games. The report mentions two titles: Game for Safety for older kids, 12-17, and Caution, Minds, for younger ones, 8-11.
And the content, was it generic?
No, that was key. They combined the lived war experiences shared by the affected population with AI-generated scenarios to make the content deeply relevant and authentic.
What challenges did they face? Must have been immense.
Absolutely. Providing education in active conflict zones, dealing with ongoing UAV attacks, addressing cultural and linguistic sensitivities, especially for Russian-speaking displaced populations, creating engaging content quickly with very limited resources, and working with traumatized children.
And the impact of this approach.
The report quotes them as saying they created truly new, unusual, but at the same time useful and interesting products. It allowed them to expand their educational ideas rapidly while maintaining authenticity and addressing urgent life-or-death safety needs in a culturally sensitive way. AI is a tool for tailored critical education.
Truly AI serving a direct humanitarian purpose there. Okay, one more example.
Yes, the final one is really innovative. From an international humanitarian organization working in Lebanon, they focused on operational security.
Security, how did AI help?
Their ICT unit developed a fully local AI assistant. The key thing, it runs entirely offline.
Entirely offline. Why is that so important?
For complete data privacy and security. In contexts where internet access might be unreliable or where data security is paramount due to surveillance or other risks, having an offline capability is huge. It supports operational activities without exposing data.
How did they build an offline AI assistant?
According to the report, they used an open-source language model, but crucially, they fine-tuned it on their own organizational data.
Like what kind of data?
Cybersecurity protocols, specific humanitarian procedures, internal terminology, glossaries. This made the AI knowledgeable about their specific context.
And deployed it locally.
Yes, on their own local server infrastructure. This gave them complete control over the system and the data.
What challenges did they overcome to achieve this? Sounds complex.
Immense challenges. The absolute need for offline operation. Limited resources and funding for this kind of R&D. Building up the necessary sector-specific AI knowledge internally. Staff training, and the painstaking work of generating structured data sets from their documents to fine-tune the model effectively.
And the impact? Is it being used?
Yes, the report says it's used daily. For interpreting complex technical documents, explaining security incidents to staff in plain language, supporting staff training on procedures, even generating structured data sets for other purposes, all while ensuring complete data transparency and control because it's offline and uses their own data.
That's incredibly impressive. These four examples really paint a different picture, don't they? Moving beyond just using off-the-shelf tools.
They really do. They show the power of purpose-built AI when humanitarians take the lead, tailoring solutions to specific, urgent challenges with real ethical rigor and contextual understanding.
So we've seen the landscape, the paradoxes, the challenges, but also these really inspiring, tailored applications. Where do we go from here? How can the sector truly realize AI's potential and tackle those big challenges we discussed?
Well, the HLA-DFS report really stresses that the path forward has to involve collaboration. Solutions need to be co-developed through active dialogue involving everyone: practitioners, tech partners, donors, and critically affected communities themselves.
Okay, so collaboration is key. What's the first big area to address? That implementation gap.
Exactly. Bridging the implementation gap is priority number one. Individual adoption has clearly raced ahead of organizational readiness. The report poses some really critical questions for the sector to grapple with.
Such as?
Like, how can organizations accelerate institutional adoption while preserving the bottom-up innovation their workers are already showing? We don't want to stifle that creativity.
Good point. What else?
Also, what funding mechanisms could recognize AI's potential to enhance direct programming rather than seeing it as competing for scarce resources? And fundamentally, how do we address the tricky infrastructure realities in many humanitarian contexts while building AI capacity sustainably?
These aren't easy questions. They require strategic thinking and real investment.
And looking ahead, the report suggests future priorities need to move beyond just basic task automation. The sector needs to mature its understanding of how AI can be used for more strategic functions.
Like what?
Advanced data analytics, developing sophisticated forecasting models for crises, improving monitoring and evaluation, conducting proactive risk assessments, making the sector more anticipatory, less purely reactive.
Okay, so bridging the implementation gap and moving towards more strategic uses. What about the skills paradox? How do we leverage that?
That's the second big area. The fact that so many humanitarians are already using AI, combined with how accessible conversational AI interfaces are becoming, that's a unique opportunity.
An entry point for broader digital skills.
Potentially, yes. The report asks, how do we harness this accessibility as an entry point for broader digital capacity building? Also, what role should experienced humanitarian workers play? The research hints their deep contextual knowledge might be crucial for effective and ethical AI adoption.
And the training needs to cover more than just the tech skills, right?
Absolutely. How do training approaches address both the foundational technical skills and the sophisticated ethical knowledge required? It's about building a workforce that's both competent and conscientious.
Does Ali Al Mokdad have thoughts on scaling up training?
He mentioned in a YouTube launch event related to this research the idea of tech companies stepping up, offering tailored training platforms for the sector. But he also stressed the need for dynamic leadership within humanitarian organizations to negotiate effectively with those tech providers.
So it's about partnership, but also ensuring the sector retains control and builds sustainable models, maybe even transferring them to governments eventually.
Exactly. Strategic collaboration aiming for long-term ownership and sustainability, not just dependency.
Which leads directly into the third area, coordinating those training approaches. You said the demand is huge, but provision is low.
Critical need, yes. Coordinated investment in sector-specific training is essential. The report asks more tough questions here, too.
Like how to cater to different skill levels.
Yes. How can training programs address beginner through expert levels? And crucially, how can they support smaller organizations, maybe through shared resources or collective learning platforms? We need to avoid widening the digital divide within the sector.
And the role of local organizations in training.
That's highlighted too. What critical role should local organizations play in shaping these programs, especially given that the report suggests they might foster more trust-based learning cultures? And again, moving beyond just basic tool use to cover ethics and humanitarian-specific applications.
You mentioned earlier that AI tools might actually be more intuitive than older systems.
Yes, the HLA-DFS report suggests this possibility. Because of their natural language capabilities, conversational AI might offer simpler pathways for capacity strengthening, especially for staff and communication-heavy roles. It could potentially democratize access to some advanced digital skills.
Interesting potential there. Okay, fourth big challenge, closing that AI governance gap. This feels fundamental.
It really is.
Yeah.
That vacuum between widespread individual use and limited formal policies is ripe for unmanaged risks. The report asks, how can governance frameworks support responsible experimentation, rather than just constraining it?
Finding that balance between oversight and innovation.
Exactly. And what coordinated sector-wide approaches are needed? Addressing shared challenges like data sovereignty, privacy, alignment with humanitarian principles requires working together, not in silos. Building on existing initiatives, like NetHope's AI Lighthouse project, is key.
And ensuring diverse voices are heard in governance.
Absolutely critical. The report emphasizes the importance of Global South civil society participation in AI decision-making, echoing findings from CARE International Research. And it states very clearly, the sector cannot afford approaches where individual workers bear responsibility for ethical AI use without institutional support.
The burden can't just fall on frontline staff. It's not fair or effective.
Not at all. And Ali Al Mokdad reinforces this powerfully. In navigating the AI and AGI-driven workplace future, he says, we cannot outsource responsibility to algorithms. The duty to lead remains human.
A clear call for human leadership and accountability.
And remember his warning from the moral panic of artificial intelligence. The true risk is not AI itself, but the panic that drives us to govern badly and miss the chance for fair innovation. Govern thoughtfully, not reactively.
Okay, final area for looking ahead, balancing those commercial tools with purpose-built solutions.
Right. Commercial tools have definitely sped up adoption because they're accessible. But as we saw, they often lack the specific features needed for humanitarian work: robust data protection, offline capability, deep contextual understanding.
Things that are non-negotiable in crisis settings.
Exactly. So the questions the report raises are, how can commercial AI providers and humanitarian organizations collaborate more effectively? Maybe co-create solutions. How can the sector balance the convenience of off-the-shelf tools with strategic investment in purpose-built ones? And what partnerships could prioritize humanitarian needs while still being financially viable?
Does Ali Al Mokdad offer any guidance on how NGOs can approach this strategically?
He does in the 10 Elements for an AI Strategy in an NGO. It's like a blueprint.
What are some of the key elements?
Having clear objectives aligned with the mission, making sure AI serves core goals. Comprehensive data management quality, accessibility, security. Strong ethical considerations from the start, bias mitigation, transparency.
And people and infrastructure.
Yes, building a skilled workforce through training, creating cross-functional teams, ensuring robust infrastructure for computation and security. Collaboration and partnerships are vital, especially with tech companies and local innovators. And finally, continuous evaluation, integration with existing systems, solid financial planning, and proper impact assessment.
So a really holistic, strategic approach, moving beyond just ad hoc tool adoption.
Exactly, a roadmap for integrating AI responsibly and effectively.
This discussion wouldn't be complete, I think, without looking directly at AI's impact on actual humanitarian jobs and, well, the human element itself. Is AI going to replace humanitarian workers? That's often the big fear.
It's a common fear, but a key assessment referenced by XAI, GROK, titled AI's Impact on Humanitarian Roles, Augmentation and Adaptation, suggests the primary shift isn't wholesale replacement. It's more about augmentation.
Augmentation, meaning helping workers, not replacing them.
Largely, yes. Automating routine tasks, speeding up decision-making, extending reach, especially in resource-constrained places.
Ali Al Mokdad had a quote about this, didn't he? Something about the heart and hands.
Yes, a powerful one from AI augments human aid. AI will not replace the human heart and aid, but it can strengthen the hands that carry it.
That's a great way to put it. But the assessment also included a caution.
It did. Humanitarian practitioners themselves, while stressing augmentation over elimination, also cautioned that localized job losses and bias amplification remain significant threats. So it's a delicate balance, not purely positive.
Let's walk through some specific roles quickly. How might AI affect, say, data analysts or information managers?
For them, AI is already processing huge data sets, satellite imagery, social media, sensor data in real time, far faster than humans could. This means big efficiency gains.
But it requires new skills.
Definitely. Upskilling in how to interpret, validate, and critically assess AI-generated insights is crucial. Routine data entry tasks might shrink, maybe by 10–20%, but new roles like data translators are emerging.
Data translators, bridging the gap between the tech and the decision makers.
Exactly. Helping turn raw AI output into actionable intelligence for human leaders.
What about people on the front lines? Field assessors, emergency responders.
They're seeing AI-powered drones for rapid damage assessment, geospatial mapping, tools that enhance their safety and efficiency, letting them cover more ground faster.
But the human role remains essential.
Absolutely. The human assessor's role shifts more towards validating that data on the ground, engaging directly with affected communities, providing that vital human context, empathy, nuance that no drone or algorithm can capture.
Are entry-level jobs at risk there?
There's some risk. The ILO estimated about 9.6% vulnerability in high-income contexts for some related roles, but this is often offset by growth in the tech support functions needed to manage these new tools. Skills shift from basic data collection towards advanced data interpretation and sophisticated community engagement.
Okay, how about logisticians and supply chain coordinators? That seems like a prime area for AI.
It is. They're benefiting hugely from AI for predictive modeling, optimizing stock levels, anticipating disruptions, finding the most efficient delivery routes, even in really complex conflict zones.
Improving speed and accuracy dramatically.
Yes, but it also means some mid-level positions focused purely on manual tracking might decline. The new demand is for people skilled in AI integration, data analytics, and strategic logistics planning using these tools.
Healthcare and mental health providers, how is AI impacting them?
They can potentially use AI tools for things like early diagnostics, facilitating telemedicine consultations in remote areas, maybe even delivering digital mental health support where human practitioners are scarce.
What's the potential scale there?
Some estimates suggest AI could help cover maybe 20–30% of early-stage cases more efficiently. But the critical caveat, the huge risk, is diagnostic bias in AI.
So strong human oversight is non-negotiable.
Absolutely. Along with cultural sensitivity and robust ethical frameworks to ensure the care is equitable, safe, and doesn't perpetuate biases.
What about back office roles? Administrators, fundraisers, grant writers.
Generative AI is having a big impact there already. Automating the drafting of reports, proposals, summaries, even compelling narratives for fundraising.
Does that put jobs at risk?
Junior administrative posts focused mainly on repetitive document creation might be vulnerable. But the upside is it frees up senior staff for more strategic work, building donor relationships, focusing on innovative program design rather than just churning out paperwork.
And coordinators, policy advisors, people involved in strategy.
They can leverage AI agents to simulate complex scenarios. Imagine testing different disaster response strategies or modeling the potential impact of policy changes before implementing them. It offers deeper analysis and foresight.
That sounds incredibly powerful for planning, but are there ethical concerns?
Yes, the risk is potentially replacing nuanced understanding drawn from community voices with purely data-driven simulations. It underlines the continued need for human judgment and genuine community consultation, but it also opens up new roles in AI governance people needed to shape the ethical frameworks for using these powerful simulation tools.
What about local aid workers, community liaisons? They seem particularly vulnerable.
They do face perhaps the greatest vulnerability to displacement, as some tasks get automated. However, the report also suggests new entry points are emerging for them.
Like what?
Roles in data annotation training AI models with local context, helping deploy AI tools appropriately within their communities, even acting as the crucial human interface between AI systems and community members, especially perhaps for refugees or displaced people who might find new digital livelihoods.
So across the board, new roles are emerging alongside the shifts.
Definitely. Roles like AI ethicists, digital literacy trainers, system maintainers are becoming essential. It's clear that all staff, really, regardless of their primary function, will need at least basic digital and AI competencies to navigate this changing landscape.
Okay, so summing up the overall potential benefits and risks, what are the big ones on each side?
On the benefit side, huge potential for efficiency and scale automating tasks, wider coverage with tools like chatbots, enhanced predictive capacity moving towards anticipatory action, intervening before crises fully escalate, which saves lives and resources, and, maybe surprisingly, job creation, new roles in AI development, deployment, oversight, potentially benefiting vulnerable communities if they get training access.
And the risks, they sound significant too.
They are. Job displacement and inequality is a major one. The risk that automation disproportionately affects roles in the global south, worsening existing inequities if not managed proactively. Bias and ethical risks are persistent algorithmic discrimination baked into systems, leading to unfair resource allocation or exclusion, and the ever-present privacy and security concerns as sensitive humanitarian data becomes an even bigger target.
And the key to managing these risks.
The consensus across all the sources we've looked at is the critical importance of human-in-the-loop systems, keeping humans involved in oversight, decision-making, validation.
Why is that so crucial?
It ensures accountability, it helps build community trust, it preserves fairness, it makes sure AI serves humanitarian action rather than dictating it. It's simply non-negotiable for responsible AI deployment in this sector.
Looking further ahead, say to 2030, what's the scale of change expected?
The World Economic Forum has projected that AI could potentially manage up to 40% of routine humanitarian functions by then.
40%. That's a massive transformation.
It is. But the key message remains. If this integration happens responsibly, ethically, with strong human oversight, AI has the potential to significantly amplify humanitarian impact without diminishing the core human elements, the judgment, the empathy, the physical presence that remain absolutely central to effective aid.
It's about empowering humans, strengthening their hands, not replacing their hearts.
Exactly. Which ties back perfectly to Ali Al Mokdad's core belief from AI and organizational psychology. AI can measure behavior, but only humans can define purpose.
And is challenged to the sector.
The real question is not what AI can do,
Yeah.
but what kind of workplaces we want AI to help us build. It's a call to actively shape the future of aid work, not just react to tech trends.
And that final powerful thought from him really underscores the urgency, doesn't it?
We can't keep applying yesterday's tools to today's realities and expect them to build tomorrow's solutions. A direct challenge to embrace transformation.
So we've really come full circle, haven't we? Back to that humanitarian AI paradox.
Yeah, that tension.
Yeah.
The rapid bottom-up adoption by individuals clashing with the slower top-down organizational structures.
But maybe, as we've explored, this tension isn't just a problem. Maybe it's actually a signal.
A powerful signal, I think. The report suggests it shows the sector's ready, maybe even eager, for transformative change. This paradox could be seen as a catalyst.
Because humanitarians clearly aren't waiting for permission. They're already out there experimenting, adapting, applying these tools, often with incredible ingenuity in really tough situations.
And that innovation needs to be harnessed, celebrated, strategically supported, not shut down by excessive caution or bureaucracy.
Which underscores that need for a coordinated sector response you mentioned earlier. Open, honest dialogue is key.
between everyone involved, practitioners on the ground, the tech partners building the tools, the donors funding the work, and most importantly, the affected communities themselves, who are often innovators too.
Because the real power of AI here isn't just the tech itself. It's how it's used ethically, how it's supported institutionally, and how it's guided by human leadership and those core humanitarian values.
Absolutely.
The HLADFS report made an interesting observation near the end. It said something like, not long ago, no one expected to see an AI native podcast in the humanitarian sector, and yet here we are.
That's a thought-provoking point.
So if this unexpected shift has happened, what does that really imply for the future? What might it mean for concepts like AI solidarity technology genuinely enabling shared progress across the global North and South?
Or even, as they hinted, the potential emergence of AI-native NGOs. Organizations designed from the ground up with AI woven into their core operations and strategy.
What other unexpected shifts in how we approach humanitarian action might be closer than we currently think? It really forces us to consider embracing systemic innovation more courageously, doesn't it? And maybe fundamentally reshaping our approach to aid.
It certainly does. It's a journey that's clearly just beginning.
And hopefully, for you listening, you're now a bit better informed to navigate it.